One. Hello, I'm Graham and I hope everyone's having a great day, and welcome to this product review for the Godox TT685 Flash Unit. Now this one is the O version, which is for Olympus and Panasonic cameras, but you can get this flash unit for the Nikon, Canon, Fuji and Sony varieties. So you've got a complete set of manufacturers third-party replacement flash units if you wanted to go this route. Now, I bought the 685 after I purchased the TT350 and was impressed by its performance and its build quality. These little units are only £70 in the UK and they can act as masters and slaves, an optical slave, but they work on radio frequency, so they aren't line of sight as you do have with optical triggering. So these give you a very reliable wireless trigger if you wanted to use them as slave flashes. So the 685 is a much bigger unit, it's got a higher guide number and it's got a couple of additional features that the smaller units don't have. Now in this review I'm not going to cover every feature that the flash unit has. That's been adequately covered by a lot of other reviewers here on YouTube, but I'm going to point out some of the features that I haven't been able to find in some of those reviews, so hopefully this will fill in some of the gaps if you're considering buying the TT685. Well, first of all, it is a Olympus Panasonic version I'm talking about, so some of the features may not be included in all the other manufacturers, and in fact some of the other manufacturers have features that are not included with the O version. For example, the autofocus assist light doesn't exist on the Olympus unit, but it does on the Nikon and Canon, so that's a variety that you may have to look out for. Now, one of the features of this unit that hasn't been mentioned is the fact you can actually set it up for the scale on the back of the flash unit, which gives you an indication of how you can use it in terms of distance. You can set that up in either feet or meters. Through the function button on the back of the flash unit, in the function menu you can set up meters or feet. So if you're in the States, for example, and you're still using the foot measure, then it gives you an ideal way of setting the distance indicator into a meterage that you are familiar with. Here in Europe we're using meters, so it's better for us to set that into the meter scale. And the other feature that's built into this setup is the fact you can use this on Micro Four Thirds system or on 135 system. Now it's the zoom scale on the back. So with the zoom facility set to be in Micro Four Thirds, if I zoom the Micro Four Thirds lens to 40mm, you will see 40mm appear on the back of the camera. But if you wanted to use this camera on, say, a Panasonic bridge camera whose zoom range is set in 135 equivalent focal length, if you switch this over to the 135 equivalent focal length, if you set the say FZ300 up to 100mm, this will zoom to that 100mm equivalent, so you're getting the exact field of view from the flash head as you are taking with your picture. So that is a useful feature. Now this flash head will actually zoom all the way out to 200mm, so it's ideal for wildlife type pictures, and it gives you that extra throw because the Fresnel lens brings that beam in and focuses that light into a smaller area, hence the higher guide number. Now I will come back to that guide number later in this video, as I believe that the guide number they're quoting is far overstated to what you're actually getting in reality. So the other features of the unit that you won't have seen mentioned is the fact there is a little sensor on the unit. I presume it's on all of the units, but it's definitely here on the Olympus version. There is a sensor in the head, a little LED, infrared LED, and in the body of the flash unit is a sensor behind a little red window, and that appears to give you an indication of when the flash isn't horizontal or you've got any rotation on. So if the head is up or slightly rotated, there'll be an arrow on the flash indicator which tells you that you are not in the home position. Whether that changes any of the electronic parameters of the flash, I haven't been able to determine, but it does give you a visual warning that you're not in the horizontal or you're in a vertical position. Now, one of the other features I've seen criticised of this unit is the actual flash head stiffness. Now, when I got this, it was extremely stiff, and if you try to rotate this on the camera, it would try to twist the flash unit out of the hot shoe. But a simple solution to that is to turn the head to the 90 degrees position and then just spray a little bit of WD-40 in either side of the head, just wipe off the excess, and that dilutes down the grease that Godox have used to lubricate the little ball and the ratchet in there that gives you the detent positions in the position. So once you've done that, that flash head is the same as any other sort of third-party Chinese manufactured flash unit. They are quite good, and again the swivel is quite good. Now you can set this up as a on-camera flash and use it in the TTL mode, just using the standard hot shoe communication to the flash unit as a standard TTL flash gun, or you can use this as a master flash in a TTL compatible setup, or if you wanted to, you can use it as a master flash in a manual setup. Depends how you're going to set up your slave units. So if you're going to use it as the master in a radio frequency control system, so if I've got multiple flash units that are being set up as radio frequency slaves, I can set those in the one of 3 groups that this system allows, and different channels up to 32, so you can set different channels if you're working with someone else in a studio and you're interfering on the same radio frequency channel. You could change the channel at which you're operating. So you can set this up as a master within the group, or you can just have it as a communication device. But if you're going to use it as a communication device, you're wasting the effect of the flash, and you're better to use the Godox dedicated transmitter. Now this is the old transmitter, it's for the Olympus system, but you can get transmitters for other ranges of cameras, so you can get the Nikon and the Canon, and I believe there is a Sony one available now, and a Fuji one, so you could use these master transmitters to communicate with the flash units. Now the beauty of the Godox system is, even if I've got this unit off camera and set up on a light stand, if I'm using my Canon system with the Canon transmitter, the actual display will tell me that I'm using a Canon transmitter. So if I was using the Sony system, you'd see Sony appear on the back of there. If I was using the Nikon, you would see Nikon on the back of there, just to remind you you're using the Nikon system. So this is a cross compatibility for the flash units, and they work quite well. If you're using them in the manual mode, then there's no concern, you're just using them as a straightforward manual slave. But in the TTL mode, you've got this cross compatibility, so you can use different systems with your existing flash units. And again, if you've got studio flashes like the bigger 600B TTL version, you could control the TTL version, or the AD200, again you could control in a TTL mode with any of the camera triggers, whether it's Nikon, Canon, Olympus or whatever. So the Godox system, the X series, is quite a useful feature. If you want to upgrade your cameras, you only need to upgrade your transmitter and not all the flash packs. Now, one of the things I found that doesn't work is the flash exposure compensation. Even if you're on camera, if you change the flash exposure compensation in the menuing system, you won't get a corresponding change in flash output power from the unit. So if you want to use flash exposure compensation, you've got to use the flash exposure compensation built into the flash head, and you've got plus and minus 3 stops of exposure compensation. High speed sync works. Once you press the high speed sync mode on here, it overrides the normal 1/320th of a second exposure. With the Olympus system, it tells the camera to use a higher shutter speed. And here is a picture on the screen where I've used this at 1/2000th of a second, ISO 100 in daylight with an aperture of f3.2 to darken down the sky, and the flash is given enough power there to fill in the daylight shadows. So that's a high speed sync. Again, you can set that up from your master commander if you've got this unit set up on a light stand. The other thing that doesn't work is when you're off camera, you can't control the zoom of your off-camera slaves. So again, you'd have to physically change the zoom length of your units before you start your shoot. You can't rely on setting the zoom to 45 on here on your slaves to follow. That just doesn't work for some reason. It doesn't seem to work on any of the Godox range of equipment that I've tried with using the transmitters. So again, just a bit of a failing there. You can't use the zoom. You've got to go off to set up your individual units. Now, looking at the guide number quoted by Godox for this system, they're saying it's a guide number of about 60, but that's at the 200mm full length. Again, with all these camera manufacturers, they tend to give you the guide number with it zoomed out to full. So 105mm is the norm for these flash units, but this one will actually go out to 200mm, and they give you a guide number of 60. When I test this out using my flash meter at a distance of 1 meter with ISO 100 and a 60th of a second shutter speed, I get a flash exposure of f22. So that tells me the guide number is 22 meters, not 60. And again, if you pull this back to the 14mm position, that guide number drops to F16, so a 16 at 1 meter. So again, the guide numbers tend to be overstated. And again, I've tested this with on-camera flash with the camera set to f22, a distance of 1 meter from the subject, ISO 100, shutter speed of 1/60th, and the exposure was correct. So the guide number is a little bit overstated in my opinion for the flash unit. If you power this unit, you're using 4 AA nickel metal hydride batteries, and the recycle time is about 2.5 seconds. So if I fire this off at full power, you can hear the beep. It's about 2.5 seconds, but very quickly that recycle time drops away. They quote something like 210 flashes up to full power with a freshly set of 2,500 mAh nickel metal hydride batteries. If you were at 210 flashes, I think you'd be waiting about 5 hours for it to recycle. I can't get anything like that with my 2,500 mAh batteries. After about 40 exposures, then these batteries are into 5 or 6 seconds recycle time. Now if you're into event photography or you want to capture a lot of flash pictures, then it would be advisable to use a flash pack. Now the power input on the front of this is a Canon system. So if you use a Canon compatible battery pack, and this one is manufactured by Shoot, you plug this into the power socket on the front of the camera, you'll get an indication that you're providing power from your 8 batteries in this unit, and that gives you a much faster recycle time, a more consistent flash recycle time. So again, if I fire this off again, the flash comes back under 2 seconds, and that's consistent, and you can see that the flash unit here is providing the power to the unit. Again, there's over temperature protection in the flash head. If you try to drive it too hard with too many full power flashes, or if you're using it in the stroboscopic mode and you exceed the maximum flash pulses, the unit will shut down and it forces you to wait while that tube cools down to protect the electronics of the flash. Well, that's it for the review of the Godox 685 Flash Unit. Hope you found that useful. If you're a new viewer, first of all, thanks very much for stopping by. And secondly, please do click that subscribe button and then click the bell notification, and you will see my videos appear in your subscription list when I upload new ones. Also, have a look at my photographic blog, and I'll put a link to that in the video description below. There you'll find lots more information on the Godox flash system, from the flash units and the studio flashes, and there's a lot more information on Micro Four Thirds and Panasonic bridge cameras. On the front homepage of that will be the invitation to join the fortnightly newsletter, and that newsletter is more than a newsletter. It's an extension to the photographic blog, and I publish a lot more technical information on there than I actually do on the blog, and it's a way of saying thank you for your subscription. So I hope you check that out and subscribe if you've not already done so. So, as usual, thanks very much for watching, and until the next one, please do take care, and I hope to see you in the next one. Goodbye for now.